Okay, well, hello everybody. I'm Mark Garrett. I'm with the UCCE Mariposa. I'm a fire educator. I'm also a wildfire resource advisor and fire archaeologist. So part of my job is to educate people to overcome their fear of fire and understand its benefits. So you know how we all see fire in the news, how devastating, catastrophic it is. Well, I'm going to offer a different narrative based on science in which we use fire as a tool to enhance our lives and the ecosystems around us. So today I'm going to show you how these lessons can dispel the fear that kids and adults also may have and transform them into stewards of the land and also keepers of the flame. So here's what we're going to look at today. I'm going to review the fireworks website a bit and then show you an example of a lesson which can be taught in the classroom or virtually, which most of the lessons can be adapted to a virtual format. And the ones that cannot, we are trying to create videos so you don't have to do those if you're not able to. So you might know that prescribed burns enhance ecosystems and prevent uncontrollable wildfire, but did you know it's used unevenly across the country? So 70% of acreage burned in the last 2 decades was in the Southeast, while the greatest uncontrollable wildfires was here in the West. So there's many factors and caveats to that, but like Stacy said, having that social acceptance, that social license is crucial. So I believe fireworks is something that can instill this attitude of fire as an acceptable and beneficial part of the landscape in our lives. So on the fireworks homepage, here's the hyperlink up here. It's just an educational program designed for K-12 students. It has several hands-on materials, interactive materials. It's also interdisciplinary. So some teachers might just want one particular lesson for their chemistry class, or for a social science class, or a geography class, or biology class. So it's very interdisciplinary, and lessons can be pulled out just to adapt different curriculums that are already in place. And also students get to gather info, analyze, and interpret and communicate their findings and discoveries with their classmates and their teacher. So the curriculum is going to consist of 20 plus lessons, depending on what grade level you're in. There's a trunk of materials, which we'll go over later, and that includes some lab equipment, specimen kits. So the curriculum was originally developed and published in 2000 by the Rocky Mountain Research Station from the Forest Service. And there's about 30 hands-on activities they originally created for elementary and middle school. And in 2017, they started creating more high school activities with updated national standards using the latest science. So about 7 ecosystems developed now. It was originally Northern Rockies and Northern Cascades, but they've adapted to Sierra Nevada and sagebrush, and right now other folks like at the Hopland Resource and Extension Center are developing the Oak Woodlands program. And there's also a generic program on there. So if you're not one of these particular ecosystems, you can adapt the generic lesson plan to your ecosystem, because there are many lessons in there that can, that are applicable wherever fire occurs, like in units 2 and 3. But like units 1, 5, and 6 are more specific on the fire history of the area or the fire ecology of the area. So that'd be something in the generic plan you'd have to create yourself. Originally, we were going to do two-day in-person workshops for teachers, educators, community leaders, our agency folks. But COVID changed all that a bit. So now we're adapting to online webinars and workshops and trying to reach out to folks that way. So originally participants would be able to learn hands-on activities, in these in-person workshops, like dealing with combustion and fire spread and fire effects, you know, so we'd have all those different examples that and hands-on activities that the in-person participants in the workshop would normally be able to do. So we're trying to replace those with videos now. So if you're not able to recreate those lessons, you can just use the videos. And there's also some Native American lesson in there, which we'll go over a bit later. But we need to expand on those as well for each region. And if you look on the fireworks website, there is a few recorded videos, as well as the HREC website, which I'll link to later, which is also part of our virtual field day that has some of those videos and fireworks there. So the trunk of materials, which we've created here in Mariposa, and other folks like in Fresno and other counties might have as well, are going to include all the posters, all the reading materials if you're not able to download those yourself, you know, the personal protective gear for yourself and the students, measuring tools, and the plant specimens. Like that's something that has to be collected year round, because we need, you know, you need all seasons and all elevations to collect these plant specimens for the multiple lessons that use them. And one example is a tree cookie that I have of a sugar pine. It's about 400 years old and has about, I think, 20 or more fire scars in it. So that was something I had to reach out to get that example. But that's available for loan as well. Part of the trunk also includes a forest matchstick forest kit, which you get to see the spread of fire, different angles using matches. The campfire challenge, you're going to be using, you know, litter duff, you know, different size, some sticks, just to see the fire effects on those types of materials. And the mystery tree box has to do with a lesson where you're trying to identify different species, from shrubs to trees, from the foothills on up to the montane forest. And as I said, these are available from loan, for loan from my office, as well as I believe UCCE Fresno has one, and some other locations like Merced possibly, and they're still in development. So reach out to us if you're interested in that. So like I said, there are some videos on the fireworks website. And it's not going to be the entire activity. It's just going to be a quick glimpse of selected activities, mostly the ones that involve lighting things on fire, like the matchstick forest, where you look at the stand density on fire, the effect of slope, or the Tinker Tree Derby, where you're creating a different style crown on a metal tree, so you can see how fire is going to interact with crown fires. You know, do you have those ladder fuels there? Do you not? They also have a video there of a Serotinus cone, a lodgepole pine, where they heat it, showing how these types of cones only release their seeds during extreme heat. So we have a few examples of those in the Sierra Nevada, like the sequoia. It also shows pyrolysis of a candle, just some slow motion ignition. And there's also an interview on there from the Forest Service Fire Lab at the Rocky Mountain Research Station that's pretty interesting. And also the Hopland Research Center has the Oak Woodland videos. So a little bit more about fireworks. So like I said, there are at least 30 hands-on activities. That was originally developed 2000, but 2017 they had a big update for more high school and adult level activities, but they are split into elementary, middle, and high school levels. But the high school are definitely good enough for adult learning as well. There's about average 15, 20 activities for each level, over 55 in total. And that's going to increase the understanding of the students in all sorts of aspects of fire, including wildland fuels, the plant and animal communities, ecosystem processes, their science literacy and critical thinking skills as well. So now if we look a little deeper into the specific Sierra Nevada curriculum, it has a select ecological community just for the Sierra Nevada. Now, some of these lessons are going to involve lower and upper mixed conifer forest or the lower and upper montane communities. And they'll vary a bit depending if you're in the north or the southern Sierra. So I've tried to adapt those a bit more for the southern Sierra because it was developed with some species that are more in the northern Sierra that we don't have. And like I said, there are 3 different curricula and trunk of materials available for the Sierra Nevada curriculum specifically. And yeah, the adult learning is, for the high school level, is definitely acceptable for that too. And you could download Introduction, which gives you more information about the goals, the curricula, the featured ecological communities, and the educational standards, which are important, which ones those meet and satisfy, whether it's critical thinking or which science. Each lesson is going to have a whole list of which standards these qualify for. And here's a quick overview of the units 1 through 7 and all the different topics on those units. So let's just jump right into lesson 11 here. And this is M is for middle school. And I usually like to teach the middle school lessons because you only have to do a little more for high school or a little less for elementary. So in this lesson, students are going to be introduced to organisms from the lower and upper montane forest and shrublands. And each student's going to adopt an organism. They're going to learn the characteristics, relationships to fire, the landscape, maybe learn a little story about what they eat, where they sleep, where they live, things like that, just to give them a quick background so that they can create a presentation, usually 3 to 5 minutes. We did a 4-H camp, summer camp, a couple months ago with this lesson, and we had 45 students on a Zoom, and we had 45 different species, and we gave them a 1-minute presentation, and that took a couple hours to get through to teach the lesson and to get the presentations, but it worked great. But if you're in the classroom, you can get more elaborate with costumes or puppets or posters or computer presentations if you have more times for things like that. And of course, this lesson is going to increase the understanding of ecological communities, ecosystems, and the biodiversity and how those how fire impacts those things. So the online links for this lesson, when you go to the website and then you go to this particular lesson, there'll be a couple PDFs. One is adopting a plant, animal, or fungus, and that's going to give you the whole lesson overview with some teacher background. And then you're going to have the fireworks encyclopedia that you could download, which has 45 species in it. So it's pretty good for a huge class to make sure everybody gets a different species. Here's an example of an American black bear. Gives you a bit of background on the animal, where it lives. And then at the end, it gives you a few fire facts so the kids can learn, what do they do when there's a fire? Like, bears will run away, but fire also creates one of their favorite feeding spots. So some animals, do really well in high intense, low intense, or medium intense fires. It just depends on where their habitat is that really affects them. So no one type of fire is going to benefit all species, but prescribed fire has been shown to benefit a huge amount of species relative to an intense wildfire, which can really impact negatively a lot of species. So here's an example of a sequoia tree that I did for our Zoom 4-H summer camp. And I just did a sequoia tree just to give kids an example of what they can do. Some made masks, some had little puppets that they just made real quick. Some had little computer presentations. But But I just did a sequoia where you can show the char up the bark and the scorch on the needles. And I talked about how, just giving 3 examples. It has thick bark, to protect it from wildfire. It has those serotinous cones, which are released during the heat of a wildfire, and it needs that bare mineral soil to resprout those trees. So just do a little artwork or something, and then give 3 little examples to really let it sink in and help the other kids in the classrooms to understand, how this species reacts to fire and survives and thrives with fire. So, okay. I think that's about it. If there's any questions, then I'd be happy to answer them. If not, here's my email and my phone number if you want to reach out and go further into those trunk materials or just talk about the fireworks more. All right, thank you.
Before we move on, really quickly, Rebecca Ozeran let us know in the chat that there is an extra fireworks trunk available at the Hopland Research and Extension Center. I believe there's already trunks in Mariposa and Fresno.
Okay.
But if other counties would be interested in having them, located at their local cooperative extension office, I think you could probably contact Rebecca, maybe, Rebecca? Hopefully Rebecca or Mark, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Just call us and we'll find one for you.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. Thank you.